yeah, not the best performance so far. We'll see what happens, though, in this match as we load on into Oregon. DarkZero on defense, XSET on attack.
Coming into this matchup, the only player on the team who has even shown some level of success from XSET is Creators. And forgive us, XSET fans, and forgive us, DarkZero fans, that we spend a lot of time addressing XSET more than DZ. DZ is a known quantity. They came into today in the top 3. They've obviously just been knocked out because of the previous result from OXG, but they still have an opportunity to get back in. But XSET is the big question mark for a lot of people. Coming into today, of the bottom 10 performing players in terms of rating, 3 of them are on XSET, including the 2 worst teams. It's not just Butters who's in dead last. Drip is second worst. Filthy's like 7th or 8th worst on that list. And I mean, for somebody like Drip, I can understand it. Drip is playing on roles and playing operators that you expect to bottom frag on the team. And Drip also has the least amount of experience on that team. So I can understand Drip being down there. But for Butters and Filthy, these are 2 players who, based upon what they play and how they play, they should be significantly higher up the standings. And the fact that they're not is a big reason why XSET is right now the worst team in the league. It's Oregon again, by the way, Operator, Banzer, and Michael. It's Ash, Thatcher, Wamai, and Maestro. So a lot of similarities to the matchup we just witnessed. The only difference is that Mira is available and she will come out immediately as Mint will decide to run the Spanish defender.
Yeah, and as Parker was just talking about the bottom 10, it's kind of funny because if you extend that to the bottom 12, then Thomas is also included in that. So 4 of the 5 members of XSET currently sit at the bottom 12 of North America statistically. And that is weird because we're used to, like, obviously somebody's got to be at the bottom. Like, that goes without saying. But it's just weird to have most of a specific team down there. I hope, for XSET's sake, that they're going to be able to change that today, though. I mean, I've been talking about this before. You know, XSET is a team that has a lot of potential. I really do think that they could flourish if given the opportunity. But they've been given 3 matches now. This is their 4th. We'll see if this is the one to bring it all home for XSET. We're going to start things off with the basement defense here for DZ. Mira not banned out. Instead, it was Maestro and Wamai. The Mira is going to be very useful on the bottom floor. And Mint's going to put 1 in the closet, 1 on the freezer wall to make a front take basically just like not an option. There is, of course, Habana in play, but the odds of actually getting those windows open are very slim. Maybe the freezer one, but nah, honestly, both are unlikely to get shot. It's too easy for the defenders to deny those Excaros on the Mira windows.
Well, everything's going to come down, I would imagine, again, to this Pillars defense, which DZ is holding a little bit more up front, I guess you could say, with Hyper just sitting and very patiently waiting. P10 Roni in hand. That's the Aruni. Not opting for the DMR, as some teams do, but instead opting for the better rate of fire at close range. It's actually a conversation that we've had about weapon choices online versus on LAN. A lot of teams believe that the Roni online is too inconsistent, but on LAN, it shreds. And I think that there's obviously some theory behind that because we see teams running it quite regularly. Anywho, we're about halfway through the round right now, and we know the setup for DZ, but XSET needs something to start happening relatively soon. They're stacked up over by blue. They know that there's at least 1 player from DZ in that position. Out goes a frag grenade from Creators. Manages to take out a piece of utility, but that's it.
Stunning into Tarp, followed up by the nade, and down goes Hyper. A good lead off there for XSET. Great utility play. I love to see that. So with Tarp dislodged, or I guess cleared out for XSET, they can start pushing into blue without being too stressed. They, of course, have to worry about NJR, who is playing by Pillar, and the aggressive play from Eclipse, but they at least get rid of one of the major prongs to this defense. Pressure on to T1 stairs, and now you can see NJR is feeling like he's between a rock and a hard place on his position. Stun goes out, and it detonates, but a nice line of sight there being played by Mint. Does a good amount of damage to Butters. Thomas is able to entry in, though, from the drop down, and Butters will follow that up. It's just going to be Eclipse of the Smoke in sight, trying to hold on to their positions, make that just the smoke of Skies. And he's going to do his best with his gas canisters to kill these lit players on XSET, but this is looking like it could be a flawless round. Scratch that. Skies will get drip. Reposition to the hallway. Almost another. Clone dispatched there, but it's not a kill that matters. Gas canister out. Thomas, not sure if he's taking damage. It doesn't look like it, though. And he will stick it out. A nice shot. Down goes Butters by Pillar. This is suddenly very winnable. All three of these attackers are on low HP, extending the odds here for Skies. Trying to retake by elbow. Doesn't seem like there's anyone there. Can't quite tell through the bit rate. And there is. Creator's there, and he's ready to receive Skies and shut that round down.
Well, for XSET, an impressive start, and special thank you to all the legwork that our wonderful Jesse J. Chick and his darling cat, by the way, does. That was XSET's first attacking win since the first play day. This has been a team that has benefited off of the strong defensive tilt of many maps. And honestly, it's a good tempo for XSET to set. You want to be able to get an early victory here on Oregon on attack. Ignore the TSM Sonics game. Let's focus a little bit more on the most recent matchup that just happened on Oregon. This is the third time in a row that we're seeing this map today. You look at it and it's relatively evenly balanced between these two teams. So XSET being able to take advantage of the setup from DZ is pretty good. I do have to ask, what exactly went wrong from DarkZero there? They seem to hold blue relatively fine. They held on to pillars for quite a while, and XSET didn't really use a ton of utility. Did DZ just get a little bit too restless? Did they peak a little bit too needlessly?
Well, Parker, I think it's a couple different things. A big part of it is, for me, the Wamai ban. You know, you've got the Aruni trying to compensate for that. She, of course, does eat up some utility, but not as much as the Wamai can, that's for sure. At least not in burst. And that means that, you know, without Wamai, even with Aruni, those ADSs have to be spread pretty thin. That early pick onto NJR by Tarps, that was huge. Or not, excuse me, not NJR. Hyper was felled by Tarps. That nade kill was huge. And the pincer move onto Pillar from XSET was well coordinated. It's just, honestly, good teamwork from XSET that allowed for that first round win. And part of it, sure, is DZ playing in exposed positions, but they're not doing anything out of the ordinary. This is all pretty typical Siege so far for DZ. XSET's just executing well.
Well, I mean, at some point it was bound to happen. I mean, XSET as a team are, well, they're quite strong, but the sum of their parts so far hasn't really been all that impressive. But individually, they are more than capable and more than talented to be able to stack up against some of the other teams. Are they a world beater right now? No. And I mean, that's fine. There's a couple teams in the NAL who would need to make some improvements on different maps, on different setups, on operator pools, etc., to begin to challenge the top teams in the league. But XSET, as 5 gentlemen, are not or should not be as bad as their record suggests, and at some point they're going to have to sort it out. Now, the one thing that you always kind of have to keep in mind with XSET, you referred to it as the good vibes team. The problem with XSET is that if they start to lose and things fall apart very quickly. So even a couple strong rounds from XSET doesn't really mean much if the team ends up in free fall.
They're the good vibes, but they're also they're just the vibes team in general, right? Like they basically they need vibes to survive, because we've seen XSET completely deflate when they lose their step. And it's worrisome. It really is. The lack of recovery potential for XSET is crippling. I mean, you can go through almost all XSET matches they've had so far through this stage, and you can pinpoint the exact moment where they stop, like, actually playing Siege, where they just completely check out. And I think they're the only team I know of in NAL who does that.
Well, there's the opening pick for DarkZero. They're looking to not repeat the same mistakes that ultimately cost them the previous round off of the hot start from XSET. So they'll burst a bit of the bubble, and the man that we'd spoken of in the question and preamble, Butters, is the one who's down for the count. Leaving just 40 seconds left for XSET to now possibly toil or begin to punish the defenders sitting in the bomb site. Down goes Hyper. Thomas has been very strong through these 2 rounds, and he's on blue stairs with a Nomad right next to him. He's going to lose some of his teammates, though, and then lose his own life as well. With Drip and Filthy getting in, it's still a 2v2, eminently winnable for both teams. A smoke goes out from Skies as he looks to relocate, and the 2 members of XSET are both going to be pushing from the same direction. But right into his waiting arms is Mint, as Filthy tries to cross, and another for Filthy, almost taking out his teammate, but by Jove, what a shot from him. It's 2 in a row from XSET on Oregon.
Big rounds, and you could see by the shouting on XSET's desk that the vibes are high. And that's exactly what they need to continue if they want to have a chance at winning this map. But the important thing is, that's not just your 2 rounds. That's 2 rounds on attacking of Oregon. So even if XSET manages to lose all the rounds in this half from here on out, they're still in an all right position. So really good start from XSET. Of course, I say that, and I will have to reiterate the whole issue with the mental with XSET sometimes. So if they do lose 4 rounds in a row, they'll probably, unless they fixed something between last match and this one, they'll probably check out. But in that round at least, the execution was solid. The teamwork was in. They once again pincered onto Pillar perfectly. The timing was great. There were a few missteps here, and DZ was better prepared. But what XSET just proved in that round was that even when DZ comes prepared, even when DZ knows what your game plan is, XSET is still capable of executing, even with the same strat they just used.
Yeah. And I was going to point it out, but obviously the action started and the round was midway through, but the thing with XSET was that they had an equally hot start on Villa last playday, last Wednesday, up against Beast Coast. They won the first 2 rounds, they lost the 3rd, they won the 4th. It's a 3-1 situation for them through the first 4 rounds on Villa. That's a pretty good start. They lost every other round after that, and Beast Coast just started rubbing salt in the wound with some of the ways that they were playing. So I'm sure the XSET players, upon reflection, if they do go back and watch this VOD unmuted, I don't know why they'd do that to go through us dissecting their gameplay. I don't know why they'd willingly listen to us, but if they do go back and listen to this VOD unmuted, they might take umbrage with the fact that we consistently point to the fact that this is a team that at any moment, after a defeating or a deflating loss, can ultimately end up imploding. I think that it needs to be something that we keep in the back of our minds. And obviously that trend, or at least maybe not obviously, but hopefully for XSET at some point that trend changes. But until then, I think it's worth noting.
Now, right here and now, we've got the main master wall open, pressure being applied through it, and Clips is going to play close with his smoke. Now, he's got a great kit to place close on that wall, but he'll fall back as the explosives come from below. I believe that was a Yana nade from Creators. It didn't do... Well, okay, technically it did some damage to Eclipse, but a negligible amount. Skyry, or Skies, pushed off of the Goyo shield that was placed at Kid's door, and... Or, excuse me, Dorm's door. I'm sorry, Parker. Please don't get angry. And while XSET has tower control, they aren't able to push through Attic just yet. They've got a lot of time to do just that.
You can hear the Selmas going off as well, and it's going to force DZ to relocate as an impact grenade claims the second of the 2 Selmas. As you know, that they take the one chunk of the wall and then drop down and take out another. So some of the secondary utility from the defense used, and used quite appropriately. An impact grenade taking out a Selma is high value. Opening pick for DarkZero is NJR putting in work, and he'll break ahead of Butters. Don't forget that community poll. The question was, who's going to do better, Butters or NJR? And right now the answer is NJR. The night is still young, though. Entirely possible that Butters has the last laugh. Meanwhile, it looked like XSET is prepping for an execute, but NJR is just going to continue to do his thing, playing just by the dorms. Single doorway, he takes out another, and then the smoke and confusion will burst in. Down goes the Banshee as XSET want to be able to get this diffuser down, but do they have site control? It doesn't look like it, but they've got the kill feed under control until DZ decides to dogpile the remaining members of XSET, and the streak for XSET is broken. DarkZero finds their very first victory here on defense.
DZ looking solid. The ebb and flow of that round certainly went back and forth, but DZ in the end were the better team. A big part of that for me is that the Clear early on in the round from XSET did not net any frags. DZ were not giving up easy, low-hanging fruit in terms of picks. They scrunched up in dorms and by big window, and there was a lackluster amount of pressure on big window for XSET, meaning that DZ were allowed to maneuver in their own site. They were allowed to freely rotate as they pleased to address everything XSET threw at them from the very linear push we saw through attic and the main wall. So, definitely a well thought out round from XSET in terms of them having some sort of execution. They probably should have tried a little bit more of a pincer. They had options available to them. That's pretty much it. I mean, if DZ's not going to give you early frags and you're not going to have any kind of pincer movement set up for the execute into sight, then it's honestly from the get-go, it's a pretty obvious result. You're looking at a situation where, I mean, you could, I guess, have somebody pop off and, you know, get a few, like 3 or 4 kills on the entry, but it's just not very likely, especially when all 5 of DZ's guns are set up to stop you from doing that.
And who says that that Oregon is not an exciting map? I know that we've seen it now 3 times in a row, and the EUL crew has had full days of Oregon. But I mean, with the way that the action has occurred through these last 3 matchups, you gotta say it's quite amusing. Well, the answer to the question, who says Oregon is boring, happens to be my good, and I hate to say this word, friend, the Chowderhead, as you refer to him as Chowder. He tweeted just a couple minutes ago, say it with me now, Borigan, Snorrigan, and then said it multiple times over. I say, in response to that, shut up, Chowder. So there you go, on an official broadcast. You wanted your shout out, you've got it now. You used to host a podcast with Caliber Jacob, but I'm assuming Jacob just wised up and stopped hosting it, which is a pretty reasonable situation to find himself in after getting to know the man that they refer to as Chowder. Anyway, we have had 3 exhilarating matchups here of Oregon, and it looks to continue apace now as XSET look to recover after that round loss.
Man, it's so weird to me seeing so many people using the 2017. If you're wondering what this charm that Hyper's using is, it's the 2017 Invitational Pro charm. And Hyper wasn't even old enough to play professionally when that Invitational happened. That was the very first Invitational. A lot of players have it because this is the LAN build, so they just have access to a bunch of random things. And I keep seeing players using that charm, and we're like, wait a minute, he wasn't there. That's so weird. It's disorienting, Parker. I swear. I'm like, what is that? How did that get there? How did Thomas land that shot? Well, he was on T2, T1 stairs on the platform. He had a little bit of an angle over the table on stage. Down goes NJR. He hasn't been performing as we'd hope, and he's not going to have his chance this round.
There's a lot of questions that I'm sure we're going to find and experience in this matchup, but anywho, it's back downstairs, DarkZero goes. And I mean, that kill onto NJR is good, but as we've seen time and time again, getting control of the first floor of Oregon, especially when the defense is downstairs, is not necessarily the be-all, end-all. We just got a good sight that it looked like Hyper was roaming, Mint was as well, but he's worked his way back over to Freezer as XSET have 45 seconds left, but there seems to be no real urgency for them to push the site. There's nobody from DZ holding pillars. This is a bit abnormal to watch with where the meta is at, as this is such a strong position. So Thomas is going to walk right up, and he'll begin to get the single panel leading into B. And DZ knows this. They ping away at it and are anticipating a possible push, but guess what? It would appear there's a mute jammer there, and it'll need to be dealt with. Drips grenade goes out. Does it work? Yes, it does. Hyper starts this off with 15 seconds to go. The explosion will signal and herald the entry, but XSET gets shut down by a nitro cell tossed out by none other than Skyrie Irving. He sinks the 3. Hyper a kill of his own. Creators fires back, but he's got so much more work to do. He and Tommy side by side going for the defuse with Creators to Overwatch. Timer at 0. DZ, extremely nervous to peek, but they swing at the same time, and both Mint and Hyper capitalize off of that, giving DZ their second round in a row.
Dun, dun, dun. And the question is, now that XSET has effectively been come back on, we're at 2-2. It's not a full win for DarkZero. They haven't locked this out. But this is the situation we've seen XSET be in before. As you mentioned, Parker, now that XSET's here, will their mental fortitude absolutely collapse? That is the question. It's the moment of truth for XSET. If they can get maybe 1 more round in this half, 2 if they're lucky, then fantastic. All right. Going into the second half, XSET's good. They've got defense. They've got the advantage. They should be fine. But if this is, again, 2 more rounds in a row for DarkZero, then it's looking real scary. And I definitely worry for XSET. It's weird because, you know, you wonder when they're going to get their chance. They've had chances. XSET have had chances all through the stage. They just haven't been able to rise to the occasion yet. That last round, by the way, really quickly to touch on it, the way that DarkZero played it was pretty masterful. The thing that I'm sure most of you noticed, and to me it was the most obvious, is the way that DarkZero played so far back. As Parker mentioned, it's a bit odd that DZ were playing off pillar, but it was clearly their plan. They played off pillar. They played really far back to try and make the time punish their enemy as much as possible, and then they played for the retake on their own site. It's a useful strategy and one that works against sometimes slowly executing teams like XSET.
Do you think the slowness is deliberate, or do you think it's due to the fact that they're still, I don't want to say a relatively new team, though they did obviously undergo a bit of a roster change with Rent Free. Sweater is no longer capable of playing this game, at least for X amount of months, and Rexon obviously is now with the Sonics, and oh my, we were talking about slow execute, and this is far from it, as they just rush into the bomb site. NJR finds a single kill, but that's it for DZ. We're now effectively locked out of the bomb site, but here he comes to the rescue. It's Mint, and then from downtown, Skyrie Irving yet again looking to at least sink a free pointer. He throws it down, and not entirely sure what exactly XSET is going to do. They find themselves in good position. They have a numbers advantage, but there's Skies to swiftly remove Thomas, who's been a pivotal player for XSET. It's Drip and Filthy in a 2v2 with still over 2 minutes left. There's plenty of time here for XSET to do something after that extremely perplexing entry. Good shots from Drip now, as Skies will have to do this all on his own. Ooh. He's been tremendous so far. He knows that Filthy is nearby, and an air jab goes up. He pops up looking to try to do something, waiting and tempting anybody to peek him. But he's in a rough spot to do so. Drip needs to get the defuse down, and his entry could potentially be stopped by more air jabs. Skies will have to hear, wait and listen. At this point, XSET have been able to get out of there. Skies hears one on the ground, and it's Filthy with coverage, as it was a very confusing, if not times oddly paced round, but XSET comes out ahead, and I would imagine vibes are at an all-time high.
If there's any one thing that XSET needed, it was a round like that. Now, it did come pretty darn close in a 2v2 there, yeah. But at the same time, a win is a win, and that's all that really matters in the end. As we've already highlighted through this broadcast, it's highlighted here yet again. 3 rounds on the board. XSET are in a good position, I'd say, overall, and a better position that I've seen them be in this stage so far, to be honest, in terms of their actual prowess. Now, to answer your question, because we didn't get a chance to get to it earlier, I don't think that the slowness from the XSET attack is deliberate, personally. There's something to be said about controlled pacing. To me, I think it's just the slowness of communication that is going to be normal for a newer team. I think that XSET can work that out over the next 6 months or so, and they'll be fine. It's not causing them too many problems. I mean, they still have 3 rounds. This is a good attacking half for XSET. This is right now is when we can stop counting XSET out and say they've got a really solid chance of winning this map.
Well, that's half the round for them, and the final defense for DarkZero is going to be upstairs in dorms. Already, XSET have found themselves with 3 wins on attack, and we are looking at what appears to be a mirror matchup of the game we just concluded, where Oregon is anybody's game, if we're being completely honest. So, obviously, it works well for both teams. Whether DarkZero thinks that there's an advantage to that and they can close out and do better on attack, or whether XSET is confident in their defense, as was noted by the fact that it has been a number of play days since XSET has won rounds on attack. You got to imagine that XSET are probably pretty pumped, because when they go to defense, they should ideally have the upper hand in comparison to where they are right now. But of course, that's just speculation based on what we've seen.
Ooh, free control of Armory. Butter says, I'll take that. Thank you very much. With that control, XSET are going to be able to turn it into master control and then later open up the wall. Now, the wall is nice. I mean, there's no denial at all. Not even a mute jammer. Maybe that was dealt with earlier. Might have been a nade in through the game's window. I mean, there was one used by creators, so entirely possible. Aggressive play here from, I believe, Eclipse. And yeah, gas canister used to delay this round a little bit more. Not sure if it was best timing, but it's done now. He's going to continue to play it close because he has a great kit to do so. The second nade from Creators, though, used from below to try and push Eclipse off. And it effectively works.
Oh my. Hyper, it looked like he was able to get that, by the way, and now he's going to scoot just behind the deployable shield with a volcanic explosive, should it get detonated. Eclipse, who came in as the highest ranked player on DarkZero, manages to start things off. There's still half of the round, and immediately Creators will now go on and try to drone in Butters, playing off this Iana clone going forward. So Butters now, well, he's going to toil, standing inside a trophy, deployable shield taken out, and that's the one with the explosive on the back of it. So if you're DarkZero, yeah, you lost that piece of utility by the door, but more importantly, you don't have to fear the potential explosion. Another for Eclipse on the board as Creator swings his way towards Closet, and he meets his fate at the hands of the shotgun barrel. NJR finds one as well, so DZ at the moment in a commanding lead. I don't know why Eclipse would do that, but he decides to push over towards Master, and he loses his life because of it, and with Filthy's kill, DZ have now lost a significant advantage. It's only a 3v2 with 40 seconds left, and if XSET have a good handle on this bomb site, it's potentially theirs for the taking.
Good position for Hyper. With the shield, he might be able to just straight stop a push in through Trophy. Filthy's going to have to stop this. He doesn't have the explosive Butters does, and he'll use it on something else entirely. With 20 seconds left, Filthy at the top of white, Butters on the breach, a shield still contending this. Ooh, shot missed there for Filthy. That could have been the difference maker. Hyper won't miss his, though, as he gets the last 2 frags. And DarkZero will end this half 3-3.
That round was over faster than Hyper's individual clothing line, which sold out today in record time. I don't know if you watched that, by the way, but his partnership with the provider, the clothing provider for DZ, it sold out in just about 4 hours or so. So if you didn't get it, well, too late. Maybe go on the secondhand market. I don't know. Try to find it. I don't know how people buy clothes these days anymore, Michael. I haven't left my house in a year. So regardless, Hyper locks it down. And like I said, it looks like this is a mirror matchup of the previous game that we just witnessed. 3-3, neither side has a significant edge. I will say, though, that this is a victory in my mind for XSET for keeping it this close against a team that historically is quite strong. So for XSET, there's obviously some benefits. Certain players are playing very effectively. The whole team is actually doing quite well. And I like the way that they've been able to interplay with their gadgets, how they've droned each other in. And the coordination on XSET has, in my mind, been the best that we've seen out of them so far since they started in the NAL.
Yeah, unfortunately, Parker, I was actually too slow to get one of his hoodies, the Blossom hoodie. And it made me sad, Parker.
I mean, maybe they have one left that they can give to you.
I'm too ashamed at my lethargy to ask. Anyway, so bottom 4 defense here for XSET to start things off in the second half. And they're looking really strong. I gotta say, I'm happy for XSET if for no other reason than they're not absolutely getting stopped. No, even if DarkZero manages to rally here and they win or whatever, we've seen some convincing rounds from XSET, and I'm not saying that in a patronizing way. I mean this like genuinely. They are playing very well. Those executes that they saw at the first 2 rounds, yeah, they were the same execute repeated twice, but by Jove, it was a great execution with good teamwork. And that salvaging that 3rd round for the first half, that was massive. It means instead of a 4-2, you're looking at a 3-3. Great result for an Oregon first half. And now they get to defend with a Mira up. I don't know. It's looking good for the set.
Ready to breach.
Michael, would you rep the set?
I think I just did.
I mean, like, rep the set isn't like support them, wear their clothes, their merch, etc. Anyway.
Maybe. I would like to.
Michael, I was just trying to fill time because there really
isn't.
There really wasn't too much to talk about right now because there's still 2 minutes left.
Yeah, sometimes Siege is like that. Oh, you wonder.
Really? Sometimes life is like that, Michael.
True.
Sometimes life just passes you by.
That is, yeah.
And you end up 30 years old casting video games.
Are you 30 years old?
Allegedly.
You don't seem like it.
That's just what the government says, man. Half of the round through, though, by the way. And, well, XSET's defense is what we have come to label as bog standard here on Oregon, which is holding pillars, holding blue, and that Banshee on the staircase, the setup of the deployable shield. This looks eerily similar to what we saw at DarkZero. Now, there was one DZ defense where they conceded control of pillars quite fast. I don't expect XSET to do the same thing, but there's a minute to go, and DZ are prepping for a drop through E-Box.
And boom goes the Goyo shield. Butters' HP is gone. He'll fall back to pillar and actually make it out of there with 2 gas canisters in his pocket. It's very important that he makes it back to site. He doesn't necessarily need to hold pillar. Creators could do that just fine by himself. He just needs to make sure he's got that utility to deny the plant later in the round. We'll fall back to the mirror window that will hold elbow. You can do a lot of work there, especially considering how stacked DZ is on the blue push. They really want to go through here. They haven't even dealt with the shield as far as I know, and they'll push all the way in. Crossfire between 2 shields, but Hyper is going to be able to land the shot out of Thomas. That's pillar control now. Creators looking for a refrag, but nobody's peeking him. They don't need to. They're trying to focus their efforts on the site, not necessarily on elbow. But look at the time. The utility from the defenders should be ample for denying this plant. Last gas canister, sure, but the guns are coming alive, and the C4s are still in the pockets. 8 seconds left. It's got to go now. NJR from behind, and Freezer will get 2 kills, and Skyrie gets 1. C4 doesn't get the planter, though. Oh, no. 000, and Mint will get it down. NJR with great coverage, and DarkZero off a flank from NJR will take the round.
I really wish we could see exactly where that nitro cell went, because it looked like it might have been in a position to catch the diffuser, but when we saw, when the Maverick got off the plant, it was damaged like 10, 15, that was it. He had basically all of his life, so it wasn't even one of those scenarios where it was just a touch bit overthrown and it did 80 or 90% of his health. No, it had barely damaged him at all, if it even did. So Mint manages to get away with murder on that one, and the mirror window effectively worked against XSET at the end there, as you could see that Hyper knew exactly where the last player from XSET was situated over in elbow. But let's talk a little bit more about that round, because once again, it comes down to just simply wrestling pillar control. And they got pillar control quite fast. And then XSET has to reposition. They try to fall off of elbow. They try to move up from laundry, and they try to confront DZ, and it ends up coming to blows. And so many times that we're going to see this bomb site, it's all going to come down to the same thing. And obviously there's going to be deeper strategy here. But a lot of times the analysis is just going to simply boil down to how much utility do you have left? How do you engage with that through pillar, through the back of the bomb site? Do you control Freezer or not? And those are the questions that need to be answered. In this case, DZ was able to do it without ever once taking control of elbow, but instead getting Freezer. And that's a small change that not a lot of teams would necessarily do.
So this is important. About 20 minutes ago, the official DarkZero account tweeted out, wait, they're using drones this week? And I think that's a big big example of like what's happening and where we are right now, because XSET have been playing very well as opposed to their other matches, and it is kind of shocking. And even though they lost that last round, they still, I think, set themselves up well to win it. And it is again, it's a little bit disorienting compared to what we're used to seeing.
I will say this, it's a good thing that DarkZero is winning in the server, because W's don't come often to their social media team. So at least they are able to pick up W's somewhere. Of course, their social media team in many ways is overseen by my, I'm going to use this word again, my friend, Bacon, former competitor, and then briefly coach. And he's the one that is, actually, DZ's been doing a pretty good job at their social media, and I've always enjoyed the banter with it.
That's all right.
Regardless, we just got to see the Gon 6 in action, by the way, as it's now a Dorm's defense upstairs for XSET. The entry from DarkZero on that main floor, trying to take out the Banshees as they see fit. And the Gon 6 was actually used, but for a second there, you don't see that all that often.
It's cool to have it in Siege. Another another little thing added to the game you have to think about if you're set up. Interesting position there from Creators. He is perched on the broken drop down between it and the server rack. I mean, he might go undroned, maybe? But if he doesn't, he could just drop. So, not a huge deal for him. Interesting. I like it. Thomas will get droned out inside a kitchen right next to Creators, trying to hold on to this position. There's 1 kill and a second for Creators. Landing those headshots. Drip adds to it, and this is looking a whole heck of a lot like an XSET round.
Well, it's a good thing that XSET used their drones, because DZ, well, they didn't that round. At least it doesn't. It sure doesn't look like it. So I guess the social media account needs to turn inwards and look at itself and say, do we have drones? A flawless round is hanging in the balance here, but Hyper does what he does best, and he removes Creator's head from his body. A little bit of subtraction.
Are you sure about that, Parker? Because he might do merge best.
I mean, maybe he does. He's just removing everybody from the server. 30 seconds to find 3 players. Thomas is on currently a wing and a prayer with just a tiny bit of HP. I don't know if Hyper is going to be able to find it or not. No, he won't. I mean, he saw him. He finds him. Isn't successful in the duel. XSET takes it. And just as we saw in the last match, once again, these teams are going to go back and forth. And are we going to need another 15 rounds to settle Oregon? So far, we've played Oregon twice to conclusion. And both of them have required all 15 rounds. I feel it, Michael. I feel it.
You want to play
in my bones? If I feel it in my bones, it feels like we're going to need all 15 rounds.
You want to play Oregon?
Boo. Boo. Boo.
Got booed
Boo.
by my co-caster. He's allowed to make stupid jokes, but I can't.
No, you're allowed to make them.
You're just gonna boo me? You're gonna boo me for it?
I'm allowed to boo you, yeah. Hey, you got to give me some credit here. Last round, you made some comment about, or last matchup, you were talking about SSG, and you're like, now that they have the vertical, and I want to be like, no, vertical plays for OXG.
I was about. I was
fake
gonna.
laugh.
It was a fake laugh,
by the way.
For the record, that was a fake laugh. It was completely, completely
shut up,
insincere.
is what you're thinking.
I was gonna make a joke about vertical, but playing vertically, but I didn't in the OXG match. I was this close. I was like an inch away, but I held myself back because I knew. I just knew he was gonna.
Michael.
He was gonna boo me. If I had done that, he would have booed me.
5 seconds left.
This is what I have to. What I have to deal with.
Well, I mean, if you're wondering why banter is dominating our post-round coverage here provided, it's because that round basically boiled down to one thing. DarkZero did not effectively drone out the bottom floor. They did not expect that there was going to be 2 players from XSET holding hands inside of security and kitchen, and then have yet another not too far off in meeting. It is oftentimes unthinkable that 3 of the 5 defenders would be down below. I mean, I will say that it is common for a defender to play down in security, especially with a nitro cell, if you can play under the default plant spot upstairs on the dorm's bomb site. And maybe that's what XSET were trying for, but last I checked, Jaeger doesn't have access to a nitro cell, and that was the operator that Creators was playing where most of the damage happened.
Yeah, so it was just a really odd round. It mostly comes down to DZ stumbling over themselves. They're doing it again, Parker.
Same room?
It was the same room, the same lack of droning. And Parker is right. Maybe DarkZero needs to ask themselves if they have drones. They're going to lose another body and another. What? There you go. 2 more.
They're losing so many
That's 3
fights.
for the price of 1. And finally, Eclipse will answer back, killing Filthy. He might actually be able to get a second as Creators is challenging, but no, he'll fall back. He'll think better of that. XSET have effectively already won the round. They don't need to start throwing right now.
At what point do you think that you making a call out to their social media, curse them? At what point do you begin to shoulder some responsibility for this?
I don't know what you're talking about, Parker.
Well,
I have no idea what
here we are.
That didn't happen.
Well, I mean, for DarkZero, you find yourself in tough spot. You're going to try to take Pillar's control. All you've got access to are some flashbangs and some grenades. But hey, guess what? There's some explosives from XSET as well. They've still got 2 nitro cells left, and Butter still has 2 toxic canisters. They're going to try to chase Eclipse off of the platform on back stairs, but Eclipse just manages to avoid it for a second. I don't know if he's going to avoid this one. He takes a single tick of damage, and he's down to a handful of HP. There's still a grenade in the hand of Mint, who just doesn't wait out the plume long enough. Now, I understand the play that Butters just did, but a good team can very easily punish this. I don't know if DZ is that good team this round. Usually, yes, but now it's Mint in a 1v4 and make it an OV4. XSET shuts them out, and XSET manages to regain the lead.
You can see that XSET is starting to build up the hype, and they definitely need that. It's looking good so far. And for the first time through this stage, XSET are seeming to really rep the set. It's not done yet, though. 2 more rounds are needed. Because of that tactical timeout called by DarkZero, they want to take a second to analyze this situation, decide what the best play is to get themselves back into the match. The expectations, again, going into this, I think they were pretty clearly laid out by the analyst desk, by us, the casters. I think everyone kind of has and I think most viewers would agree. This is a match strongly expected to be an absolute slaughter for DarkZero. And currently, DZ finds themselves down 1 round. And those last 2 rounds, it was the same exact problem in the execution from DarkZero. And what was that, Parker?
Do you guys not have drones?
Yes, that was the problem. It's weird.
Obviously, there's some deflation there from DarkZero, who are probably coming in quite high on this matchup. If you look at the standings for DZ, in a lot of ways, this match should be a gimme. If you look at the season, a lot of teams and a lot of spectators as well will take a look at the matchups and say to themselves, okay, well, these should be givens. You're coming in and you're going up against a team that has repeatedly blown leads and has been in free fall a number of matchups and have really, what I think, regardless, by the way, is underperformed. I will say that. Do I think that XSET is better than their position in the standings? Possibly. Do I think that they are as bad as they've been so far? The answer to that is no. I think that XSET have had some stinker matches and frankly are better than what their record would suggest. But for a team like DarkZero, when you come in here and you see the record that XSET is entering this matchup with, even if it's best of 1, even if it distills down to certain maps and certain bomb sites and certain play styles, this is a matchup that if DarkZero wants to be the best team in North America, this is a matchup they have to win. There's no other way around it.
Breaking news, a Jesse Chick report. DarkZero...
Hold on, Michael,
yes?
hold on.
Jesse Chick report here. Live from this match right now. DarkZero have only ever lost Oregon once since the map was reworked. This is years ago when it was reworked. And that was to TSM last July.
Bomb located by attackers.
Thank you, Jesse Chick, reporting live from Alberta, Canada. Greatly appreciated. Pet your cat for us. We appreciate that. I'm always amazed, by the way, that he has access to these stats so quickly.
Yeah.
But
I actually, I once had the idea that we should probably put a little pop-up thing. We could have little pop-ups like we used to do with lands. The CGG would do the little pop-ups with the random facts. They should just give one of those to Jesse.
Out of our budget, we don't have the
we don't have the
expertise
technology
for that.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not quite
But
there
they should let Jesse do that all the time.
This is worth noting, by the way, that these are in officially sanctioned professional matches. So that doesn't include the Pro-Am that just happened. It doesn't potentially include qualifiers. This might not include any other tourneys or leagues that are not
It's
top
T1
level. So yeah, so that's the thing to point out here. And I mean, for DarkZero, they're a strong team, and they're a team that's going to keep their head in it.
Yeah.
You know, this old DZ squad used to have the same problems that XSET has.
They haven't.
SSG used to have the same problems that XSET had, which is that when they start to lose, they lose really badly and they get in their head. Well, SSG are world champions and DZ are major champions. So for XSET, if they can sort that out, then things will start to go a little
and
bit
also
better.
keep in mind that is all well and good. DarkZero haven't lost this in a long time. Oregon in a long time. But they also haven't lost here yet. They're only 1 round down. And really the major story here, for me at least, isn't necessarily that XS is winning right now. It's that they, even if they lose right this minute, even if DarkZero starts the comeback and it's all over, blah, 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 XSET put up a heck of a fight. They are playing like an NAL team, which we have yet to see them do through this stage. I just absolutely love it. It's exactly what we hoped to see from them in the past. So, Butter's taking a lot of damage there, and he'll be finished off by Skies. Thomas, though, also in dorms, will be able to get 1 and a second, actually, in the same magazine with that SMG-11. A 3rd for Thomas as he reloads. Shotgun out, no 4th. Mint will shut him down. But DZ now 1 man down. XSET poised to get match point.
It's unlucky for Thomas having to dance around that grenade, effectively working as area denial, and I was going to say essentially and then effectively at the same time. Anyway, Filthy now tossing out toxic canisters, trying to make the entry point for DZ a little bit more brutal. And, well, it's ultimately Filthy who gets just spotted by Eclipse. And another from Eclipse as well. The highest performing player from DZ needs to heat up, and he needs to do so quickly. For his troubles, he's greeted by a lead burial. And now Mint on 0-0-0. He's got to get that diffuser down. I'm sorry, is this match point for XSET? It is! They take their 6th round, and they are a single round away from their first victory here in the North America League.
Well, all right. Now they just need to not choke it. And we've seen some pretty impressive chokes before in NAL, so this is the moment here for XSET. They've set themselves up perfectly. DarkZero are making a number of major mistakes in their teamwork on execution, not positioning themselves adequately for refrags, in their information gathering, lack of droning, poor droning when it's there. DarkZero are blundering, and XSET are taking full advantage. There's been some nice comebacks from DZ in some of these rounds, some nice attempted comebacks as well, but XSET are still managing to come out on top. Creators and Thomas, Filthy almost on double kills there. Beautiful stuff from them. Pulling a lot of weight. Meanwhile, over on DZ, NJR has come alive. He is performing as we hoped he would when he first joined this team. And Hyper is doing your typical Hyper things. Probably amped up from his merch sales.
The one thing that DZ has always done is they've always had players trade good performances. Now, the one exception is that Mint hasn't exactly had a very strong season so far. We've seen Mint take over games, we've seen him pull off miraculous clutches, and single-handedly win series for his team. In this case, DZ has seen a revolving door of good performances, and obviously the teams with that level of depth are always going to have a leg up over teams that rely really heavily on one or two players. BDS, for example, is a team that now has depth that allows them to push themselves to be the best team in the world, or at least one of the best teams in the world. Whereas before, when Shaiko had a bad game, there was often a lack of supporting cast to help BDS keep their footing and compete against their top opponents. So, for a team like DZ, you want everybody to perform well. Obviously, Eclipse has been the standout player so far for them. He came in, I think, 6th highest rated player in the NA League. Obviously, he's had a bit of a bad matchup, but that's okay because NJR's had an alright game, Hyper's had a good game, and Skies has had some very impactful rounds as well. Regardless, the real story right now is not DarkZero, it's XSET. And the fact that XSET is only about 3 minutes away from being able to win their first matchup. And now they're 4 kills away as Thomas begins the festivities.
And JR, though, great answer to that kill. Thomas goes down inside a kitchen, meaning that Creators doesn't have his typical support, and he'll fall back. Now, this is the first time that DZ has managed to push those players out of security and kitchen without losing more than one player. And they got the refrag. It was, of course, Mint who they traded out. So the only real loss there for DarkZero is the hard destruction, which they also have in Habana. So not the most devastating loss for DarkZero, considering the performance Mint has given us so far. Eclipse, though, in Pillar, will die, and Creators is being chased, droned, and assaulted by 2 attackers. He'll finally be shut down by NJR, but look at the time that was just wasted on that hunt. Now, with even man count, XSET need but wait 50 seconds, and they will take this map.
Diffuser needs to be retrieved as well, as it's surrendered just over by Dining. NJR doesn't have it. I don't know if he knew that or not. It gets picked up for a second by Skies, who then dropped it to pick it back up again. Is this DZ just making a bunch of errors? Because it certainly seems like that's the case. So when you said XSET just needs to simply wait, that looks to be correct. They don't need to really move a muscle here. And they don't need to aggressively peek either. They've still got utility Filthy with 2 toxic canisters. He can watch big window, but he's wary of getting pressured from the top of white. There goes one toxic canister to watch one way. Hyper picks off Butter, so Filthy hits the deck. Drip down now as well, so Filthy will need to clutch in a 1v3. Downs the Zofia, but NJR has a huge final moment, and he takes down the last two members of XSET to keep DZ's hopes alive.
A hard stopper there for our DZ, who were just inches away from failure. NJR has been so clutch for his team in this map. The rest of the squad in DarkZero is starting to falter. NJR is coming alive and flourishing. You love to see it. That's what proves you've got a diverse and deep roster. One round away from overtime here for DZ. But they're going to have to show us something better than what we saw in that last round. Because, wow, that was way too close. The execution downstairs for DarkZero. Yeah, they managed to get, under the site specifically. Yeah, they managed to get a pick onto the player in the kitchen. But they were way too slow in killing the player who was in security. Creators who then fell back to pillar. That took just too much time and too much manpower. And it could have easily gone awry when rotating back to the site. There were only, I think, 10, 15 seconds left on the clock when that round ended. Not an ideal result for DZ, even if they win it.
I would have loved to have seen what else happened with those other two players from XSET. It's a replay feature, an immediate replay feature is something that we are really missing, and I would... Well, I'd sell my firstborn if I had one for it, Michael.
You know, there's...
I mean, what's the big deal? You just have another.
What the hell? No, but I was going to say, yo, believe it or not, Parker, there are actually leagues out there who use the replay feature already for their main broadcast. It's really interesting because you can catch all of the action because you know what's happened.
Are you going to reference the Japanese
it's really
league?
Cool. It is really cool.
It is pretty
neat,
isn't it?
It's like a totally different viewer experience.
Yeah. Like I said, technology's not there yet.
Yeah, only in Japan.
I choose to bury my head in the sand. Look, when we get vending machines that can make ramen hot on the spot, then we join Japan.
Then we get to use
replay. Until then, no replay feature for us. That's just how it works.
Yeah, you drive a hard bargain, but ramen vending machines.
I just want ramen.
You know,
that's
I want some ramen too. I'd love some. I'm sure that whoever wins this will enjoy a nice hot bowl of ramen in your honor, Parker.
I mean, DZ got to eat some when they were in Tokonami, coming very close to winning it, but ultimately they came up short against Na'Vi, and there is worry that they could come up short to XSET for their fans now as well. And XSET are hunkered down in the bomb site. Yet again, we will talk about Pillar's control, but this time it's been extended just a bit by Thomas playing up a little bit farther on those back stairs. Creators even farther than that, also now up in Big Tower. This is not exactly the spot you want to be as a Goyo. No way! He gets it! What a beautiful throw by Creators, and Eclipse is down for the count. Yet again, another opening duel, if you can even call it that. Creators still, though, being pressured up in tower. The drone shot away, so Hyper will try to find him with those proximity detonations. It's Skies and Hyper working together to finish off the Goyo. But I know you're going to talk about it, Michael. Look at the time.
And the hard destruction's gone. It's just Mint with his blowtorch. He's got to open up the breach on the E-box. And you said it, Parker. Time. This is the slowest hard breacher you got. It's not an ideal situation for DarkZero. And the waiting is the main strategy for XSET. Last time it didn't work, but they've been given this second chance. This is their moment to avoid overtime. It's not going to be an easy task, with DarkZero being so ruthless and lethal on their dying seconds of the round executions. The Harry Potter grenade does not land for Mint, and that leadoff pick would have been nice. C4 misses as well for XSET. The explosive's gone now. It's going to come down to the guns.
The Hyper just surviving there as the explosion does no damage to him. XSET realize they've got the clock working in their favor. Thomas not droned out thanks to Butter swatting away at the drone. So Thomas will try to retreat. Down goes Skies. XSET has the advantage. Freezer push coming in. But right now XSET is dominating. Mint in a 1v4. Welcome to the big leagues, XSET. That's your first victory, and it's hard earned against DarkZero.
Massive dub there for XSET, really repping the set, and huge reactions to the plays we've seen from DarkZero throughout this map, especially when it comes to NJR. We saw it at the end there. NJR was trying to flank through Freezer, and he finally got shut down on that flank.